So as the organization makes a run to become the first three-peat Super Bowl champions, would you say you're more or less nervous this time around?
I think experience is a great teacher. So we've done this enough to realize sort of what makes it successful. We tweak things every year, but it's been a really smooth operation since we landed on Sunday night and started practicing this week, and it's going very, very well.
It's going very, very well. I want to talk about the Chiefs as a brand because it's so much more than a regional team or even an American team at this point, right? It is a global brand that really resonates with sports fans around the world. Talk a little bit about your organization's international efforts and how you have a new entertainment production studio that plays into that really amplifies that.
Yeah, it's a convergence of the platform that we're on right now. I mean, we have one of the most successful franchises in sport. We have the world converging and consuming content like never before. And then the international program that the NFL launched back in 2019 gave us and other franchises the opportunity to aggressively pursue growth internationally. And we've been one of the more aggressive teams to do that. So the convergence of all this on top of being in for the last six Super Bowls, and the opportunity to constantly be out there with content is something that we've been very excited about, we've taken advantage of, and we've seen results from. So Foolish Cup Studios is something we launched this past week that gives us the opportunity to create even more ideas and then distribute that content internationally, hopefully.
All right, so Mark, obviously a chance to create more content. Let's be honest, this is Bloomberg. It's a chance to create more revenue when you're this successful on the field. Walk us through what it means to the top line, the bottom line of your team to be consistently in the big game and, now going for your third straight win. What does it do for your business?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question given the audience here today. I think that when you look at our business, we are on a platform we have never been on as a franchise before. And so we look at that as opportunity. What can we do in this platform to take advantage of this time to maximize the platform? So top line, bottom line, it's growing brand value first and foremost, and then everything that sort of comes off of that. And we are very successful in Germany after investing in there over the last 4 years. We're the #1 team from brand value in Germany. We have the most revenue from a sponsorship base in Germany. We're looking to do that again and again and again as many times as we can. The opportunity and the platform that I speak of is the international market. So, as we grow, we now have the ability to grow internationally, and that's really the focus.
And so, Mark, part of it is growing the audience, and some of that comes from just showing the games. Also, you mentioned the additional content, but also social media has been especially powerful for you guys. You are one of the most followed teams out there. How do you continue to grow that? And are there certain platforms that are working better for you overall?
Yeah, so it's a combination of things. It's one, the superstars that we have on our team and what they've done with content, with Patrick and with Travis, with his podcast. And it's sort of dovetailing with that and then using the content that we have. We have a program on YouTube called The Franchise, which is an inside look at our team. We're the first National Football League team to have over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. We're the second sports franchise in America behind the Golden State Warriors to do that. So those are the platforms that I'm talking about, that you have to have the content to be able to take advantage of that. So we have a production studio in-house that does the franchise show. Now we've launched a production studio that will be more out-of-house to really look at partnerships around that.
So is it frustrating then with all these plans and this incredible brand, not just in the U.S. but globally, to not have as much certainty as you'd like over where you're going to be playing in terms of stadium down the road?
Yeah, so I would take that two different ways. One, we want to play more games internationally when we're given the opportunity, because we've seen the value of that and we've seen the benefit of that. As it relates to our domestic situation, specifically in Kansas City with our stadium, we are pursuing two different options. One is renovation of the iconic Arrowhead Stadium and GHA Field. And then secondly, investigating the opportunity to build a world-class dome stadium. Two very different paths. And we have the advantage of having two different states that we can go down those paths on. I think with, as I said, on the one hand, it's the iconic nature and how can you make a worldwide bucket list icon of a venue better through a renovation versus if we build a brand new state-of-the-art dome stadium, we have the opportunity to host even more events. So Super Bowls, Big 12 championships, national championships, as well as year-round concerts and events. So It's an exciting place to be in. I will tell you personally, it's a very time-consuming place because you're looking at a bunch of different options and you're dealing with politicians on both sides of the state line. They're both excited about the opportunity, and we just got to figure out what's the best thing for this franchise and for our fan base for the next generation.
Yeah, it's pursuing lots of different paths and kind of seeing where they take you. I wonder if you would ever look to private equity or sell LP stakes to fund the construction of a new stadium.
Well, we have the expert in the building on the private equity program. Clark Hunt is the chair of our organization. He's also the chair of the finance committee at the National Football League. And he was really one of the architects with, I think, one of your next guests in putting together the private equity situation with the NFL. It gives us the opportunity as franchises to pursue that. Clark has said publicly, and I know in dealing with the siblings and the family members, that that's not something we're pursuing in the present time, but it's good to have the option out there. And we've seen the other teams that have taken advantage of this opportunity.
And so what have you learned from that, Mark? I mean, we have seen a number of your counterparts, one of your arch rivals, the Buffalo Bills, who you beat to get to this game. They took advantage of selling a stake. They may use it most likely to build a new stadium or to upgrade their facilities. What are the learnings that you take, even if you're not going to partake of it right now?
Well, first and foremost, the learnings of seeing them go through the process and seeing just what it takes and how to maximize that process. The second thing I think that this gives you is true valuations. The ability for, the firms that have the ability to capitalize on the private equity piece are true evaluators of value. They have to return to their shareholders. So they're investing in these teams and pieces of these teams in a very structured and a very critical way of exactly what the value is so they can see a return. I think just the first few that have done have been really positive signs for the NFL and for the individual franchises that have taken advantage of that.
All right, so you went exactly where I wanted you to go, Mark, which is valuations. You worked on the league side. You worked for a little team called the Philadelphia Eagles for a few years before you got to your current home in Kansas City. You look at these valuations since you were a guy coming up in this league. I mean, is it mind-blowing to you?
Yeah, it's mind-blowing on the NFL side, but I know the NFL side so well that I can sit here and tell you that the valuations are solid. And you look at the growth of this game and look at the opportunities that are in our future. I'm a big believer, obviously, in the National Football League and the power of the NFL. I think it sort of spreads across sport, though. When you look at the valuations of NWSL and NBA, Major League Baseball, MLS, across the field, as well as, properties like the Premier Lacrosse League. The ability to sort of look at these as true investment opportunities and see the growth that sports provides. There's no better appointment viewing, and frankly, from a rating standpoint, no better viewing than the National Football League. Well, how do other sports match up against that, and then how do they continue to grow that?
Mark, before we let you go, I did want to get your thoughts on one thing. Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, with the backing of team owners, is standing by the NFL's diversity initiatives, even as we've seen some moves on the federal side otherwise. As the head of a high-profile organization, what are you hearing from your employees, from your customers, from your partners on this front?
Yeah, I think as administrations change, you're going to have change. We're very proud of our policies. We're very proud of what we've implemented at the Kansas City Chiefs. It's something that we take very seriously. I was asked this question multiple times today, and I think I'd point to even our most recent hire. People talk about and know about the Rooney Rule and all that it's done and the process behind that. I think not everyone is aware of the impact it has across the entire business. So we just had a very significant hire on our communications team, and we went through a very inclusive and diverse slate of candidates. Mm-hmm. We wanted to see all the talent that was out there before we made our decision. So we're proud of our policies, and we continue to sort of lean on those to have the best possible employee base in the National Football League.